spook easily startled.
Have you ever explored the depths of fear? Have you ever wondered what depravity dwells within the imagination of a storyteller that prompts them to exhume horrors untold and expose those horrors to unsuspecting audiences? Some are repulsed, and some are shaken. However, there are those who are invigorated. So to those demented souls, we invite you to journey inward into the dark bowels of human imagination. Press play, and you will discover what's in the podcast. And welcome back to another edition of What's in the Podcast, and it's Age-Old Fears edition, the segment where we talk about the archetypes of horror and what it is about them that scare the ever-loving shit out of us. And for today, we're talking about a pretty damn hot topic today. In fact, the reason why I decided to opt to talk about this one is because a really weird-ass thing happened, something that doesn't happen particularly often. In fact, yes, because me and, of course, our good friend, Matt Kanopka, Killer Horror Critic, we did something that we don't do very often. We disagreed on something. Specifically, our feelings on the recent Megan 2.0. One of us liked it, one of us very much did not. But the reason of this conflict came about because of the topic we are discussing today, specifically technology and everyone's very logical and very understandable fear of it going on. So I've already kind of did a pseudo intro, but I'm going to intro again. Matt Kanopka, Killer Horror Critic, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. It's always a good pleasure to be here with you, talking our greatest fears, and this is definitely one of mine. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It just seems funny. We have so many movies that talk about the follies of technology. Fuck, we even have a Marvel villain that is the embodiment
right,
of
Ultron.
is who is the embodiment of everything wrong with technology. You know, I think like for every Johnny Fives, we've got like 20 Ultrons portrayed in pop culture, you know? So it's like
hmm
you think we'd learn our lesson, but alas, we don't. But
Yeah, the age-old tale of human beings.
oh yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to kick off. So what do you think it is? Why do you think we are so obsessed with technology in terms of why do we think we keep pushing this particular button, even though it could very well be tantamount to our destruction?
Oh man, I mean, that's such a loaded question, you know? Like I feel like you could write an entire book about just that one question,
Oh,
but
people have. I'm sure they have.
right. So I will. So I will put it this way, because as much as I'll start with a positive, and that is that as much as I fear certain advancements in technology, like other people do, I do also understand at least a portion of the drive for it, because at the human beings want to create. That's a lot of what we do here is create. We're driven to make things, give life to things, invent things. Like that is what separates us from a lot of other species. So we have this drive, I think, to always be pushing to achieve new heights and solve new problems. And we just happen to have somewhat of an ego in that regard, because we're we're the species that wants to answer the question of God and that kind of stuff, and like,
Hmm.
why are we here, and we believe that we have not only the right but the power to do that. And it's just, so on one hand, I admire us for wanting to create and evolve. And a lot of these things, when we're talking about technology, a lot of it starts rather innocently or positively, um certain medications and methods of that. Like a lot of it starts wanting to help people.
Hmm.
But the problem at the core of all of this is that as soon as you put it into the hands of money people, where they could honestly give a shit about whether or not it helps anyone as long as it makes them money, that's when we start to run into a problem. And unfortunately, the way our society is set up, especially here in America, where it's capitalism all day, every day, a lot of decisions are made that disregard the effects on everybody and instead only look towards profit. So,
Mhm.
so that's the baseline,
Yeah,
I think, for
which
where the
actually
question
kind of
starts.
brings us neatly to a interesting thought a lot of people don't think about. Now, the words industrial revolution have been thrown around in every history class
Sure.
all around, but it's kind of funny to think about the idea that you could actually say the concept of technophobia could be whittled back all the way to the 18th century. That's
Mm,
actually kind of a fascinating thought. I mean, because really the Industrial Revolution, it started peaking out in 1675, but then it was in 1727 when Parliament made it actually illegal for people to destroy machines because unfortunately violence was breaking out by people destroying machines. And a lot of it was because people were terrified of machines taking jobs. And that
mm,
fear has gone on for hundreds upon hundreds of years, but Parliament actually made it illegal to destroy machinery because it was getting so bad. Then, of course, in 1811, that was when we had the Luddite riots happening around that time because machinery was coming in, taking people's jobs, which was kind of a good thing because it was basically saving lives because, working in the mines was a dangerous business, especially back then. But
right.
but then, just when we think we've petered out and we're starting to become marveled by it, because of course in the early 40s and 50s, it's like, hey, welcome to the World's Fair. Look at the future. We have that oven that, changes your baby and cooks your food at the same time. Just make sure you make that distinction. But then unfortunately the atomic bomb happened, and then
Yep.
people started freaking out again about what can be done. So uh that is that and right on cue, we have movies, literature, and television and of course horror, as is the core focus of our podcast. All jumped on it in order to talk about how scary technology can actually be when it goes awry.
Mm.
So, I mean, now the general fear a lot of people have is the idea of technology, especially AI, replacing us. That's a big freaking thing, and that's one that I could definitely understand people having that problem with, especially bastards who are generating AI art and selling it as if it's their own,
Oh
even
yeah.
even though you can blatantly clear they don't have an eye for picking out why AI art is still fucking ugly.
Or I mean, they don't even know what they're looking at for the most part.
Exactly.
It's just
Yeah, they don't.
because for them it's all been commoditized. Like it's not about yeah, or maybe another way to put it is like, people like that, they they look at art with a different part of their brain, I feel like sometimes, where you and I might look at art and we think about how it makes us feel, you
Mhm.
know? Like I don't watch a film and find myself, disliking it because of the quality of an image necessarily. I will dislike it based on a theme or an emotion or something along those lines. And I feel like so many tech induced people that I know, or tech driven people that I know, they they're more looking at it like they're judging a film based on how clean it looks,
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
how clean does the technology look, how impressive is the technology, and that's just kind of a point where we're not looking at it the same way. So a lot of these people that are copying art through AI and then selling it themselves, they don't have an eye for what they're looking at because it doesn't mean anything to them. They look at it more
Exactly.
as like, oh, this is really cool that I can just instantly make this thing that looks passable at a glance.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, I've tested it. I've seen how it works, and I'm like going, okay, this is nothing more than a toy. This is just a toy. This is not meant to go beyond the sphere of, oh, let's see what happens when I do this shit. It's kind of like
Mm,
those face swap apps that we had a couple years back, where everyone was putting their face the putting their face over, and that was fun, but it doesn't go beyond that. It was never meant to to actually be taken more seriously than beyond that. But people, unfortunately, have gotten to the point where, well, it's kind of like that. It's weird. I'm going to bring this metaphor. It's kind of like how
mm,
Ratatouille, how you had that critic who was offended by the notion that someone says anyone can cook. And it's like, no, because it's the culinary arts. And the whole point of being an artist is that some people have a talent for it, and there's some people who unfortunately are not gifted like that. Now, granted,
Right.
that's an egocentric way to say it. Sometimes art forms can be taught, but when you teach someone to do the art, they still have to do the art
Right.
in order for them to learn it. You can't learn art by typing in a prompt and having it come to fruition. There's no artistry in that. There's no soul to that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what bugs me so much sometimes too, with the conversation around it coming from the other side of things, where it's like, you have all these people being like, look at this film I made. I'm a filmmaker. No, you're not.
And you're not.
You came up with a prompt.
Yeah.
Fucking my 5-year-old niece can do that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, going back to that clown who tried to make X-Men's Wes Anderson's X-Men, or at least tried to do his own thing on it, because everyone knows Patrick Williams already did the amazing parody of Wes Anderson's X-Men, which is still fucking funny. But then some
Mhm.
asshole tried to do an AI version of it. And it's like anyone who knows the works of Wes Anderson knows that there is a particular way he delivers his comedy and all that.
Yeah,
Hell, he
he
just
has
came
a
out.
style. He is a
He
unique
has,
artist, whether you like
yeah,
his stuff or not.
exactly. Well, he just came out with an amazing film recently, The Phoenician Scheme, which perfectly encapsulates why he is a unique filmmaker. And it's like
Mm.
you put that next to this bullshit, and then you realize the key thing that's missing from technology. And that to me is where the ultimate fear is of technology taking over, is that we believe technology has no soul. But what happens if we as people engineer a soul? And we as humans are flawed as fuck. So
Mhm.
here we are, flawed ass organisms playing God. And if God is a madman, what do you think the product is that's going to come from that madness?
Well, a perfect example of that is, t Twitter or X or whatever the fuck we're calling it these days.
Better.
They're mecha Hitler,
Yeah.
like Grok going all fucking Hitler on everybody, like is a perfect example because the reason it does that is not only do we not really have any clarity on the coding that's being put into Grok by Elon Musk, who himself is recognized at least by many people to be a Nazi, whether you think it's true or not. That's how a lot of us see it.
Is he
Um,
still alive? I haven't even heard from him since he broke up with Trump.
oh, I don't know. I mean, the last time we saw him in public, he had a black eye. So on the day he
Oh.
was leaving the White House, so who knows? Maybe he's just AI now. But the point being, not only can we fully trust the coding being put into Grok that's driving how it thinks, but you have to consider too that what these things are being trained off of is the internet. Like
Yeah.
there's no regulation in how you're training any of this AI. So when you open up this artificial intelligence to learn from like the fucking dregs of Reddit or 4chan or wherever the hell it's getting its information from,
Yeah.
you literally cannot trust any of that. It's just taking random garbage from all over the internet, which is 90% trash,
Yeah.
and spitting it back out like fact because it doesn't know any better.
Well, there was a fun meme poking about Age of Ultron, where like Ultron comes into consciousness for the first couple minutes, surfs the internet, and immediately wants to destroy the world.
Yeah, well, so I was watching in sort of prep for this, but also just I hadn't seen it since it came out, so I was curious. I revisited iRobot.
Yeah.
And while I don't really like that film, I do think that it ultimately poses kind of an interesting conversation related to what we're talking about here, which is, spoiler alert for iRobots, maybe skip a minute, if you haven't seen it. But the ultimate villain turns out to be quote unquote Vicky, this ultra intelligence
Yeah.
that that is like the core of all these robots. And anyway, um, her argument for why she decides to sick all of the robots on us is that is that she truly believes she is following the three laws of robotics, which are essentially revolved or set up or designed to protect human beings. But the conclusion that she comes to is that in order to protect human beings, you must protect them from themselves.
Yeah.
So
Um,
they essentially decide to, contain all of us and murder the few who speak out
Murder
against
those
that.
who
So
oppose,
yeah,
because those who oppose obviously oppose the three laws.
are a danger to humanity at large.
They're
Yes.
humanity at large. So, and there's a lot of other ones that tackle that. I mean, actually, funny enough, Tron Legacy actually kind of tackles that idea, the idea that
Hmm.
Flynn programs Clue and to make the perfect system. And if Clue is setting out to make the perfect system, all of a sudden here's Flynn like going gaga over this phenomena that occurs, but he
Right.
perceives it based on his programming to be an imperfection. Now it's weird that we're going on to these other genre films, even though it's horror, but again, all even those movies
It's
are
all scary though.
it all it's all scary. It all connects because I mean, because it is that idea that this is actually we can whittle this all back to the birth of sci-fi and even the birth of scientific horror, specifically Frankenstein. You could even say
Hmm.
that is the first instance of technophobia portrayed
Well,
in
well, yeah. I
in
mean,
film or
the
in
novel Frankenstein was basically the birth of sci-fi horror, the
absolutely.
birth of sci-fi, basically.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And suck it, fascists. Women created sci-fi. Fuck off. Yeah,
Yeah. They'll never
exactly.
accept that, but they can suck it.
Yeah, they can eat my hairballs. So but yeah, Frankenstein is pretty much all about the idea that here you have a creature who, when he is born, has the possibility of great things, but because the person who made him is a egocentric demigod, who does not take care of him the way he should. Unfortunately, that poor creature does not get the nurturing that he needs in order to be, the beautiful thing that obviously Frankenstein
Right.
wanted him to be, but because Frankenstein was a see, that's I think the one thing about young Frankenstein is that Frederick Frankenstein was very clearly, despite his latent madness, actually had a much more altruistic approach to him to the point where he actually wanted to treat this creature as something beautiful. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, that's it's funny that you could consider Young Frankenstein a legit a sequel to Frankenstein where he actually like learns from the mistakes of his predecessors.
No, sure. I mean, it's part of the genius of Mel Brooks.
Oh yeah. Happy birthday, by the way. I believe he's celebrating, I think he's celebrating is he his centennial, I think this year.
Oh, well, I did not know that. Good for him.
I hope so. I don't know. My math's off. But but even then that segues into another film which I'd love to pick your brain to see if this counts as horror. To me, it kind of is horror, but Ex Machina.
Oh, yeah, of course.
To me,
I
I
mean,
could
obviously it's hard sci-fi on the surface, but there's plenty of horror to be found in that movie. You could easily look at it that way.
well, see, I like now this kind of goes into our divide, the feelings we both had towards Mega 2.0, but Ex Machina, it's interesting how the end of that movie, you find yourself rooting for Eve above all, because
Sure.
look at the two people who she's had exposure to. One is a freaking monster, and the other one is this weak-willed, highly suggestible individual who has no real free will of his own and he's pretty, so it's like in the end, she seems to have become so intelligent that she's wise enough to discern, these people need to go, these people need to die. So that is an odd approach where this is why I love Alex Garland, is because he's going to prompt these ideas in your head. It's like, could we create a life that is actually a much better version of what we want to be?
Mm,
That she could actually go out there and do something better because we equipped her with the tools, but she ended up gaining intelligence beyond the boundaries of what we programmed her to be.
right. Well,
Yeah.
sure. And for all of the warnings against AI that we'll end up talking about, there are those handful too that try to approach the conversation a little bit differently.
Mhm.
Like one that I actually do really like is Artifice Girl, this little indie that
Oh,
I think released what, 2 years ago, maybe? Have you seen that one?
no, no, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, I believe the title is Artifice Girl, but it actually has Lance Henriksen in it, who shows up in the third act, and he's great in it. But it's it's been a while since I've seen it, but and I don't want to spoil anything, but long story short, it's about this artificial intelligence that's created to essentially track down sexual predators, and it's a very contained film. It all kind of takes place in one room with the creators of the AI. having conversations with it and things like that. And
Mm.
essentially, the film ends up getting into a conversation of, have human beings lived out our time, and are robots the next evolution, basically?
Yeah.
Like is it basically their time to be the new species that takes over, which is such a wild thing to consider when you think of the fact of, well, they're not like they're not
Well,
technically alive, but are they alive? And you start getting into all those questions. But it's just it looks at it in a different way of like, just, can human beings continue to exist like this? You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, well, there's also something that calls into question where we came from as a species. It stands to reason, like if we are able to create this life, and if this life is able to learn and adapt and become a life form in and of itself, and it does, well, firstly, it does make us want to reevaluate what can be truly construed as life. But it
Mm,
does leave us to wonder about our own origins. What if this is just all cyclical? What if we ourselves were the product of some demigod who, and I'm saying demigod as opposed to regular God because
yeah, no, I know what you
that's
mean.
but that is the thought. It's like, what if we were just, maybe we just weren't mechanical, maybe we really were just some big cellular protoplasm or something like that that just kind of grew from some kind of combination of chemicals that just created this ultimate thing. So it's like that's a
Right.
thing. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't want to, people who are opposed to the idea of creating artificial intelligence. Now, some are worried about the idea that they would replace us, which is a very rational fear. But there is also the idea that if life can be created by simple dumbass creatures like us, it's like, could it possibly be that we were the product of just some dumbass as well, and that we are not as great as we make ourselves out to be. I mean, so there is a very strong existential component to be had, to be pondered about
Right.
this. Kind of going back to Megan 2.0, I didn't really get a chance to really articulate to you, but I think that the reason why I liked it
Mm,
is as a companion to the first film, because the thing about the first film is that Megan goes crazy because Gemma's programming was narrow. Like she had a narrow perspective on what she wanted for Megan with her intention. And to me, I actually felt Megan 2.0 was a strong progression where she went back, for all intents and purposes, went back to the drawing board and realized what it was that was wrong with her and actually was able to teach Megan about the sanctity of life and the idea and it I felt like in companion with the first film, I felt that it did transition her character to the position of her being the T-800 in the scenario better. But
sure.
that is just me. But you made a very strong point as a con in your favor, and given the fact that it is about how worried we are about the idea of AI becoming something that replaces us, I get it. I get it completely. So go ahead and voice your counterpoint.
Sure. So for me, it's not the fact that Megan has turned into any kind of like protagonist, because I'm a big fan of Terminator 2. I think it's
Yeah.
one of the greatest sci-fi action films ever made. But a stark difference between that film, which granted, made what, almost 40 years ago, no, 30 something years ago. Um, a stark difference between that film is that, well, we are, because human beings are always fascinated with this question. We are given reason to be sympathetic towards the T1000, or the T800, in that we're given reason to be sympathetic towards Arnold in that, because we see the potential. The film shows us the potential. It introduces the idea that the robot is more of a father to John Connor than any of the men that have been in his life, because it is focused solely on him. It has its version of caring for him. And so in a sense, it is a better father than the men that he's had in his life.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a fascinating question for a film like that to introduce. But ultimately, the film does also understand and make the decision of, human beings are not capable of having this technology without destroying themselves. Period.
Yeah.
We're
I
just
mean,
not capable. And
Yeah,
so the only moral thing to do is to destroy it. No
yeah,
matter how much it means to John Connor, that T-1000, no matter how much it means to him, it has to be destroyed. Because if
yeah,
it's not destroyed, then all of humanity will be. And
yeah.
so I think that what bothered me so much about Megan 2.0 is that you can't take these things in a vacuum. Like they're not so you have to look at Megan 2.0 being released in the context of this era. And the conversation right now, of course, is very much, the tragedy of AI and what we can sort of foresee coming with it. Because, you mentioned the Industrial Revolution. I could be wrong about this, but one thing I don't remember occurring during the Industrial Revolution was the billionaires that own those companies flat out saying, yes, we're going to replace you. And that is a difference that you see with some of these CEOs right now who are openly admitting, yes, you will be replaced. And
It would be naive to assume that there weren't people in a lot of those companies who are saying who did that. I would be shocked if we didn't have that back then.
I fully believe that internally those conversations were happening. I don't know that I don't know that any CEO at that time was coming out and saying, you're all going to be replaced.
Yeah.
You get to look forward to a lifetime of making the machines until we have the machines making the machines making the machines.
Yeah.
But now there is a bit of a difference where you do have a lot of these CEOs being pretty blatant about the fact that we will be replaced, and they're trying to sugarcoat it with, oh, but there will be other jobs, but there's very much an undertone of until we replace those jobs
Yeah.
with AI.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing,
It's a sad state of affairs when I'm seeing advertisements for college courses that are like, become a prompt writer, learn how to write prompts for AI. Get the fuck out of here. But
I
anyway,
hear that
so the whole thing with Megan 2.0, it's not just the film itself. There's a lot that I'm applying to it that results in kind of how I feel about it. Because I will say, I don't hate the movie. It was one of those where I walked out and I'm like, that was a perfectly fine film. Like I was very just it didn't do anything for me, but because of where it sort of goes, I felt a bit of frustration with it. And
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, that what I was going to say. And I think for me, I like the idea that it was actually saying that we need to be responsible with this technology because we've seen in the first film how badly it can go tits up. And even more so, we could see what happens when it's in the hands of people who really don't.
See, but here's the thing though, is I don't really think that that's what the movie. I think that that's there in the film. I don't think that the film itself really believes that. I don't think that that to me felt more like, well, let me put it this way. First of all, the studio doesn't believe in that message because the studio is already out there using AI hardcore for their marketing. Like they're not being responsible with it. And two, you spend that entire film basically looking down on Gemma for being an anti-AI advocate. Like she's very much presented as this character who basically learned nothing from the first film and is obnoxious once again, only this time she's obnoxious because she's trying to stop AI. You know what I mean? And I just don't like the film going full 180 on its messaging of, because it sort of goes from, hey, AI is dangerous and we need to seriously consider the ramifications of it to, well, AI is here to stay, guys. So might as well
Well,
just deal with
and
it.
that and that funny enough leads us to an interesting and I'm glad you said that. I'm so happy that's the way you said it because
Uh,
there is that horrifying, foreboding thought that there's nothing we can do. It's coming because going all the way back to the Industrial Revolution, despite the efforts of the Luddites, bashing up the machinery, it came. It's inevitable. Every technological advancement, no matter how much we fight it. Hell, there was a time where I was clinging to my MySpace and I still wish I never let go, because they were like saying, "No, you're archaic. Go to Facebook." And it's like, I don't like it because I look at my page. Look at my page. It looks so good. It's like, yeah, but no, fuck that. Facebook's better. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I didn't want to, and I couldn't fight it. Eventually, I had to get a Facebook. So there's that horrible foreboding thought. So to me, go the ending of that is that Gemma recognizes the dangers of it, but she also recognizes that it's coming no matter what we say and do. The only thing she can do is try to utilize it in a way that is responsible and is safe. And let's face it, she is better qualified to handle it than any of the other assholes in that movie. Definitely way
Mm.
better than freaking Jermaine Clement's character in that thing. Granted,
Sure.
granted, they went overkill with his character. I cracked up, but I think that's
Yeah.
the point. I think that was from my interpretation, the point is that yes, this technology is coming. It's inevitable. The key thing we have to do is be responsible for it. And if you really want to parallel it with Terminator 2, that's kind of what they were saying with the character of Miles Dyson, actually in the extended cut of Terminator 2, which is the superior cut, as most extended
Right.
cuts of Cameron movies tend to be. There's an amazing scene with Miles Dyson. Actually, it's kind of a real intro scene to him with his family, where you find out, no, he was creating Skynet with the express intent for pure altruism. He wanted it to revolutionize, industry for the sake of making things safer and making things basically kind of because for the longest time, even going back to those all G. Willikers World's Fair days, we were obsessed with the pursuit of the push button age, just the idea that one button can make our lives so much easier, kind of thing. Only to find
Mm.
out that our pursuit of that just made shit harder and harder and harder. And a lot of it really came about because of the ill intentions, because sure, Miles Dyson, that was what he wanted out of it, but unfortunately, it was going to land in the hands of people who have far worse intentions.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and so, like I was telling you, I think I would have swallowed, and I'm using this word on purpose, but I would have swallowed the ending a little bit easier, I think, if there had been a foreboding to that, you know. But Megan 2, at least in my mind, it didn't have a sense of foreboding in the idea that AI is here to stay. Instead, it feels more like a softball kind of, almost like a softball geared towards like younger horror fans of like, hey guys, Megan,
yeah.
she's cute. We
Well,
got her in the end, like, see you guys later. Like, it's very much like, isn't AI cute, guys? And I think that was my main issue with it, is that it's like in this time, in this context, right in the middle of this conversation, the stance your film is taking is we might as well just roll over. And I'm not saying that it's incorrect that AI is essentially inevitable, because let's face it, it is. No matter how hard you and I and anybody else fights, we got a bunch of assholes running everything in the world, and they're gonna fucking
yeah.
incorporate it because that's just what they're gonna do.
And
And so
that's
I
the scary
don't, I just,
part.
but I don't, and that is the scary part. But that's not the implication of the ending of Megan, which I felt like was very cutesy about it. About, it just felt very much like AI can be fun, guys. And I think that's ultimately what sort of frustrated me, is it just felt like the wrong stance to take in this moment, especially coming from a film that was so anti all of this just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that's ultimately what just made me walk out and be like, I've long felt like Bloomhouse is a bunch of fucking shills anyway at this point, and that just kind of furthered
Yeah.
that belief of mine. So
Well, I unfortunately don't know all the politics on the matter. All I know is that, I mean, James Wan is there. Hopefully they won't fuck up Saw, but I have faith in
well,
James.
no, you have
So,
great talent there, but
yeah.
I'll just never forget the comment of like Jason Blum saying there are no female horror filmmakers. Like that guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about,
I'm
like
like,
it just
what?
remember it was years ago. He was asked why there aren't any women making movies for Blumhouse, and he had a quote. This probably isn't the exact words. You'd have to look it up. I don't want to say it out of context, but like he basically said that there aren't really any female filmmakers making horror movies at the time of this quote. And this was years ago. It's not Blumhouse now because after he got about a lashback, they obviously course corrected and tried to have a few more women making movies. But the point is that women were already making horror movies
Yeah.
before then. There was no shortage of women filmmakers. It was that they weren't being hired.
It's like, look up IMDb. There's a wonderful director named Jackie Kong. I'm pretty sure she would have been down to clown if you asked her. But
Right. So all I'm really saying is that I've lost a lot of faith in the management of that studio, despite having talent like James Wan involved, which obviously very talented filmmaker.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway, but
but
yeah,
anyway,
that's a topic for another day.
yeah.
But I think yeah, but I think the best thing to think about is that maybe our fear isn't so much about the technology itself. It's because of it's I think it relates to just our fear of humanity.
No, it's not. And it
Um,
always comes back to this. Every single one of these anti-AI films that you can watch, all of them virtually deal with the fact that humans are at fault in some way.
in
Because
fact,
we are. Because the AI, because again, going back to the idea of training the AI, right?
mhm,
It's not the AI's fault that it is programmed a certain way. It is not the AI's fault that it is taught on Reddit garbage. It is not the AI's fault that its coding is being put into it by a fucking Nazi. Like it's
yeah,
not, the AI is innocent in that regards. We fear the AI though, because unfortunately, we don't have any power in keeping it out of the hands
yeah,
of people that are going to corrupt it and use it for terrible purposes. And I think when it comes to the conversation of AI, there there are those like myself who I feel so strongly about this will destroy humanity if we just let it go
mhm,
that we just
yeah,
shouldn't have it at all is my viewpoint. Because I think that the consequences are going to far outweigh the positives down the timeline.
mhm.
So
It's like I'm chomping at the bit because I'm like all of this you're saying. Funny enough, there was another movie that came out this year that actually did a great job illustrating your point, and that was
mm,
Companion. uh,
yeah,
that came out this year because you have Iris, who is, before we ever knew that this is why that fucking second trailer, fuck you, second trailer. First,
I wish it had never. Yeah, they should
first
not have.
teaser,
Yeah,
first teaser was awesome. But man, like if that twist had been hidden that she was an AI companion, man, that movie would have rocked my world. But it still rocked my world. I still love the movie.
yeah, still a great movie.
But to me, the conversation that movie was having was that you meet her on her own, and if you did not know that she was a robot, you would have loved her. You would have thought she was sweet. You would have thought she was a good person, and all that stuff. And then you find out and I think for a lot of people who did have that twist, I know when I showed it to Lynn, I know their reaction was like, "Fucking what?" Because
Mm,
here they were getting to like Iris as a character, but then so you're recognizing this robot as a person, and then you find and then but then all of a sudden you realize the real horror of this is the fucking people and what we do to people when we consider ourselves superior to them. And the people who are in charge of AI are the people who don't think that gonna gonna take them or take them over or rebel against them in any way. And then when they do, they take it for granted, and they think that and in an egocentric fashion, we think we're superior to it, not realizing that if we're not careful, if we're not,
well, and going back to the Industrial Revolution, let's actually consider this for a second. All of these movements, when you look in history and you understand the fear that was being circulated at the time that people believed in,
Mhm.
they weren't wrong.
Yeah.
Because even with the Industrial Revolution, it's like, okay, that that ultimately led to America being richer, and we certainly have technologies that in some ways, in some respects, have made life better. But at the same time, how many people have been harmed because of Industrial Revolution? How many people have been harmed because of all of the chemicals and shit like that and pollution that was being put in the lakes and rivers and like there's so many consequences to the
Yeah.
Industrial Revolution,
Oh
not to
yeah.
mention fucking global warming, which is gonna eventually kill us all.
Oh God, yeah.
And the same thing applies to the internet. The internet on its face when it first began or when it first came around is, you see the potential for good. You
Yeah.
see the potential for people to connect to each other. Facebook, the the early social media was nice at first because it was people posting pictures of their food and what they're doing for the day. There wasn't any discourse and people arguing with each other all day, every day about everything.
See,
And
this is why I love MySpace, because to me, MySpace, it wasn't about you going to everyone else. It was about them coming to you. You made your space to express yourself. So all
it,
people had to do was go onto your space, and if they say, "Oh, this guy looks like a piece of shit," I'm just going to avoid him.
right,
And it was so easy because you could advertise yourself right there. Know it.
right.
Yeah.
Like so much of this stuff is started, like we were saying, innocently, with a positive reasoning, but often, pretty much every time, the consequences, though, are not thought out. And they're especially not thought out by the people in charge. The government, for instance, is always extremely slow to put any sort of regulations into
Oh yeah.
effect. With the internet, I mean, we still haven't gotten to a point of, regulating the internet in any sort of positive way to protect people.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's even worse because not only because there's also the problem, there's also the fact that a lot of this technology is not 100% perfect, and we're already putting our eggs in this particular basket. I mean, that's another
Well,
thing.
and so this is the other issue with AI, right? Is that not only is the technology not perfect, but again, we're at peak, as a lot of people like to say right now, we're at peak capitalism. We're at the end. What is it called? End scale? No, not end scale capitalism. What am I thinking of here?
Uh,
Whatever. We're at the end game of capitalism. We're at peak capitalism, and the problem, the very, very, very big problem with that being at the same time that we're beginning to incorporate AI is it's not just that AI is going to be introduced without asking ourselves the questions of how it's going to affect the future and seriously considering the consequences that could come around so that we can help prevent some of that. But it's going to be done at the cheapest level
oh yeah.
possible.
Oh yeah.
There's not going to be ethical AI, as some people like to say there will be.
Oh,
It's
there
going
will.
to be done cheaply, like we already talked about. It's being trained on fucking Reddit and bullshit, like instead
Yeah.
of, these things aren't being trained on like history books or math books, or something like
Yeah.
that. They're being trained on what some asshole on Twitter says. So like it's fundamentally flawed from the very beginning, and we're just off to the races with it.
Hmm.
And you already have this stuff incorporated into our military.
Yeah.
We
Oh my
already
God.
have basically introduced Skynet.
Did war games not teach us,
Well, and war games is a great example. The
war
the
games is an
computer
amazing example.
itself is not the problem. It's the fact that we didn't consider what would happen
Yeah. Yeah.
with it, you
Yeah,
know?
we had to just, in order for them to survive, we had to pare it back to the base level to its base level to teach them the fundamental truth is that, the best kind of wars to win are the ones you never start to begin with. And
Right.
the thing is about we as humanity are have we still have not learned that fucking lesson.
No,
That's the
we,
saddest
we
part
we
about
as a whole have not. That is correct.
yeah, and that begets the real paranoia is the fact, then I think to me, the real thing that terrifies me about technology, ending us is the idea that unfortunately we built it and we're fucking morons. I mean, that's where we can go talk about like a lot of other great techno horror films. I mean,
Mm.
movies like hell, even for all its faults, Child's Play 2019 still made a very valid point in terms of
Oh yeah.
why we shouldn't let technology, it was in many ways, people always joke it's kind of like a precursor to Megan, where the idea that we can't have technology replace parts of our life because unfortunately you're basing it on technology that is not 100% reliable. And as we see in that movie, the whole thing kicks off because you have a vindictive uh, uh, worker who just got fired and decided to sabotage one out of spite. And it's like,
Switched on the evil button.
yeah, oh, look at that. This thing's set to evil.
That's basically what the movie is.
Yeah. But then there's the other thing that's freaks me out though about technology about the is also the people who slave themselves to it. Like they are like obsessed with it because they believe they are a lot of times it's almost a cult mentality where
Sure.
they give themselves to it. I mean, off the top of my head, movies like actually oh yeah, actually, one movie that I just watched recently in preparation for this, which I fucking loved because it's just a badass movie, and it makes me hate Sean Connery all the more for the fact that he made this filmmaker just quit. Um,
Mm.
Death Machine by Stephen Norrington.
I like Death Machine a lot.
That is a cool ass movie, and it's funny that this whole thing kicks up because here you have this killing machine, and it's all made specifically to be a killing machine by a full blown sociopath who just
Played by Brad Dourif.
played by Brad fucking Dourif. And this guy's like just techno obsessed. He's just like he made this thing specifically because he wanted to make a goddamn
Yeah,
desk.
he wanted the power of having control of a killing machine. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just so enamored with it. And then you have people who are so obsessed with technology that they use it to try to replace life. I mean, look at Deadly Friend, absurd little film, but Deadly
Hmm.
Friend is about a guy who, yeah, he's a techno genius, but technology can't replace the human soul.
Right. Well, and Companion already touched on that a bit too, where in a different way, granted, but Companion ultimately kind of looks at a future where like, I have this conversation with my wife a lot because we kind of joke about it, where it's like there are a good handful of men probably who will never leave their goddamn house again if they get some kind of companion bot like that they can just do whatever they want with.
Well,
And
that
that's very
but
scary.
it's scary, but simultaneously, that basically means these guys would never leave their homes, which that might
No, no,
actually
no.
be good.
It's
There's a
a double-edged sword, right? Because
yeah.
because it's not great that we have human beings that are viewing robots as the same as a human being. But at the same time, less dude bros like that in the world harassing real women is a positive.
Yeah.
Um, but the point being, I mean, look, you're already seeing stories about people who are talking to these chatbots and like wanting to get married to them, wanting to leave their partners for them. Like it's already insane, and it's
Yeah.
barely been around for a couple years. Like it's
Yeah.
not even integrated in everything yet.
Oh yeah, not even. I mean, again, yeah, this is part is the ultimate double-edged sword because well, and even Companion even address this idea. It's like the one character looks at Iris going like, I'm just you make me feel redundant.
Hmm.
And it's like I mean, I and you get exactly where she's coming from. It's like it makes perfect sense. It's like, what's my purpose after that? Well, it's like, well, there's one, unfortunately, because you have all these incel dudes who want like the perfect. Well, it actually goes back to the Stepford wives. I mean, the Stepford wives
Oh yeah,
precedes Companion in this regard. I mean, these guys literally replace women with mindless automatons that only live to serve them because
right.
these are the kind of because again, this all leads us back to that's the thing that I'm now realizing. I'm not so much scared of technology. I'm just scared of fucking humans because look what
Oh
they're
yeah.
with it. And
It's always about the humans. Yeah,
yeah,
the technology, like we were saying, is not it's not the one that's at fault.
so on one side I'm like, yeah, have your little robot, you have your little sex bot, and just go to your corner. Just go to your corner and just masturbate freely. Or
Hmm.
masturbate in an elaborate fashion. Just leave us alone. Leave us to do the real work. Which
Yeah. Yeah, that is what they want. And I think that and this obviously starts to get into like conspiracy territory nonsense, but I think the reason people are so afraid of AI, and granted have a good reason to be, is that when you when you sort of look around and you kind of see the state of things right now, it's not. too difficult to get to a prediction of or an understanding that a lot of these people who basically run the world, these billionaires that are kind of controlling everything, it's not too hard to get to a point where you realize that the end goal for them could very well be just we're gonna replace everybody
Yeah.
with
I mean,
robots because they fundamentally don't care about our future. I mean, to understand what even $1 billion could do for people,
yeah.
and these people are hoarding it like goddamn dragons, like
Yeah.
they're not interested. And some people believe that it's not just that they don't want to help, but that they themselves might view the Earth or our time here as limited, and they're kind of looking to get the fuck off the planet with their AI
Yeah.
helpers and leave the rest of us here. So it just
Yeah.
it's,
I
it's
mean,
a
it's like
lot. It's a lot.
it's a lot. I mean, and unfortunately, yeah, as further proof that Star Trek is science fiction. I mean, we're never going to get that future where, a freaking android can basically just be on the crew at the bridge,
Oh,
everyone.
no, I mean, Star Trek is like I mean, granted, I haven't watched a ton of the show, so I could be wrong about this,
But we
but
know
Star Trek,
Data.
I've
We know Data as the character. Data is kind of like Data. Well, the one thing about Star Trek is that it's kind of designed to be the Gene Roddenberry obviously designed it to be life goals for the human race. It's like this is what we should
the,
aspire to, and amongst
yes.
it, treat everything that has anything that exhibits life, treat it as if it is a living thing. And I thought the brilliance of creating a character like Data is the idea that here is an android that actually aspires to be more human. And instead of people fighting him on the matter, there are people who actually are like helping him, coaching him, and all that. It's like, but that's kind of what I feel like we need to get to. I mean, even in a wonderful roundabout way, this is why I actually did enjoy Matrix Resurrections because they addressed that idea is that they made peace with the machines and now they live in harmony with them. And they actually do. That's where we need to get to is that we need to come to the realization if we are going to go all in on creating this life, we need to come to peace with it. But in order to do that, we've got to come to peace with ourselves. But unfortunately, humanity is so royally fucked on our own. The odds of that happening ain't anytime soon. So less Star Trek, more Terminator. That's just seems to be the way it's going.
Yeah. I
So
mean, yeah, like Star Trek is the goal. Because what I was gonna say is that, to me, Star Trek's the goal of the future because it's very diverse. Like people all
yeah,
seem very accepting of each other, and like you were saying, there is a teaching of appreciating all life, which is obviously the goal. And something I wanted to say about that too is that kind of again continuing the conversation about the AI itself not necessarily being at fault is that human beings, and I don't know, I'll consider it a positive, I suppose, because it allows us to empathize, but like human beings, we have this sort of urge to put a sort of life or intelligence on the things that don't have them, so like an example is I don't kill bugs. I treat bugs like a human life. I will not kill bugs if I don't have like, if a mosquito fucking bites me, I'm probably gonna slap it. But I'm the kind of person where if I go into my shower and there's a spider in there, I'll be like, you know what? I'll come and take a shower later. Like,
yeah,
or I'll try to move it or back up to its web or something. But I won't kill it. And part of me sort of attributes to that spider like, oh, he's just like me, like he's
yeah. Well, it's the thing.
like he has his own like thoughts and life goals and all this kind of stuff, and ultimately, I mean, he probably doesn't, but I want to apply that to him. And it's the same way that, I was watching like so I watched Fantastic Four the other day, right?
Uh-huh.
And okay movie.
Oh, look at
And
Herbie. Yeah,
yeah, Herbie, I watch Herbie and I'm like, oh, he's so cute. Like I could have a little Herbie, and I would apply the same sort of feelings to him that I do as a pet of like he has this life and feelings and everything, and maybe he
Well,
doesn't, but I apply that to him.
and the key thing about Herbie is that Herbie was guarding, was a dutiful member of the family. And why? Because they treated him with love and respect. They treated him like a member of the family, which is the lesson here that we need to learn. I mean, it's the idea that we need to, that if this thing is something that we're creating, and if we are intending to create life, we've got to treat it right. And we've got to learn to be the best of to be better, so that way they understand. Because like any child, like when we raise our children, we try to make them the better part of ourselves. But if we ourselves can't recognize how we're flawed,
Hmm.
that child's already damaged goods before it can even like drive. So it's like you gotta, we have to reevaluate ourselves as a species to figure out what exactly we want to intend to what we intend to achieve by creating this technology. But right now,
Right.
like, and I agree with you 100%, we are at this point where we are just rife with avarice, and we are just dying to, and there are people who are dying to profit on it, not really thinking about the consequences. So that is
Right.
where we leave it. And that I feel like at that core, that is why I think we're terrified of technology. So as a wonderful, and let's kind of end everything on a kind of like a upbeat note, or kind of like a
Sure.
fun note. So uh let's go ahead. Give me you are all right. We are going to engineer our own robo-apocalypse. So go ahead and go ahead and give me the top five robots from horror, or any kind of artificial life or anything from horror that you would recruit for your robo-apocalypse.
Well, since we're recruiting them from horror films, they don't exactly have to be like friendly. I take it. We're
Yeah,
we're
then
we're
that's be
we're
friendly.
recruiting the deadliest robots then.
And incidentally, first Terminator does count. That the first Terminator was a
Oh, first
slasher film.
Terminator is a horror film. I don't care
That
what
is a
anybody
horror
says.
film flat out. All
Yeah.
right, so go on
Um,
ahead.
yeah, so I don't know. I definitely the Terminator.
Uh,
Um, Megan, because she'd be fun. I'd be entertained at least with her around.
oh yeah,
Um, Maybe the Death Machine,
oh yeah.
just because it's so fucking cool.
Well, that thing was relentless, man. That thing, I couldn't believe. I love the way they filmed the POV shots. That really sold me how fast that damn thing was.
Yeah, and how just the camera just bounces
Yeah,
around as it's
man, it was
running.
such a
It's so
cool ass
good.
movie. It was such a cool fucking movie. Everything about that movie just worked for me.
Yeah, it's really fun. Everyone listening should go seek that out if you haven't seen it. I believe it's on
Yeah,
Tubi.
it is on
Um,
Tubi, but unfortunately, it's the mediocre studio cut where it's.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm hoping against hope we get a real good special edition somewhere down the line.
there is a special edition that
I think Shout
who
Factory. I almost.
released it? Not Shout. Kino Lorber, I think,
Kino
released a
Lorber.
copy.
Okay.
I don't know which version it is, but I would hope not the shitty cut down one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, we got those three. Uh Man, it's like one of those questions, like sometimes I feel like when you put on the spot, you just like forget all of everything you've ever learned.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Well,
so
that's what I do.
maybe, you know what? I feel like the AI intelligence, not a robot, but the intelligence from Resident Evil could probably fuck some shit up, the Red Queen.
Oh, the Red Queen. Yeah.
Feel like she'd be useful.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Not a horror film, but I would love to have RoboCop on my team just because I can
Oh,
gel with
yeah.
that guy.
No, no, no. Ed 209.
Well, Ed 209 is true horror, so I'll take him, but he's probably going to turn around and accidentally shoot me. So
Yeah. Okay. Um,
yeah, terrible answers, but that's my
yeah.
five. What
Well,
about
you
yours?
took one of mine. I was definitely going to put the one from Death Machine on there, but I
Yeah.
will try to, yeah, go away. Actually, one that would be Kick-Ass Foot Soldiers, because that thing was fucking relentless. The Robot Santa from Christmas Bloody Christmas.
Oh, yes, that's a good
That
one.
thing was freaking relentless, man. That thing was even did. I couldn't believe so many times in that movie. I'm like, okay, now it's gone. Oh my God, this thing is not stopping. God, I love it. I love Joby. I cannot wait for Jimmy and the Stigs. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm actually, Also, I would put the sentries from Chopping Mall for kind of similar reasons because they
Oh,
are.
right now I think of Chopping Mall. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes,
I would
definitely.
because again, much like the one, much like yeah, much like the other. I mean, that thing, those things are pretty damn resilient, all things considered. I mean, and it was made on a mall budget. Um, Now, if we have to have the human element in there, I would put in the AI from Upgrade.
Mm. Yep, can definitely kick some ass.
Oh yeah, definitely kick some ass, but also a lot of times even take the human element out. Um, Now, for covert ops to trap people, you're gonna fucking laugh at me at this, which I hope so. Um, Program the every elevator in the enemy stronghold with the AI from the lift.
Oh, the lift. I just watched
Oh,
that the other day,
I just
or
watched it for the
revisited
first.
that. Yeah.
I just watched for the first time, and I could not believe how much fun that movie was.
It's a lot of fun.
It is.
Well, I wouldn't call it a great film necessarily. I do really like the look of it and the style. I think it
It,
knows what it is, very much
beyond
so.
that, they did a really great job realizing the premise. I mean, that was like
Yes.
it's like how many ways can you make a killer elevator terror like freaky? But that movie was able to employ everything we ever are terrified about the elevator. They
In
applied
terms
the
of just straight up killer elevator movies, that's probably the best one.
yeah, easily, and I was so impressed by it. All right, and my final, actually, one that would be the ultimate marriage between man and machine. That would be completely formidable and can get anywhere. The Lawnmower Man.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, Job inevitably broke out and he became a plague upon the world, So and because he himself merged with machinery, he became the
Yep,
ultimate balance, really. That's the
that's
kind
a good one.
yeah, so that's my five. So okay. Damn, this is a good one. Oh man, this
Yeah.
is a good episode.
I mean, it's just a great conversation, It's because there's just so much to it. I mean, like I was saying, you can really write just books and books and books
Oh yeah.
about the same topic.
Absolutely. No, this was a good one. I'm so happy we took the time to do this one. So,
Yeah, me
um,
too.
you were telling me you are in the middle of the festival circuit right now. You've been running the gamut. So, have you seen anything? Is that right?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, yes, but so I'm just finishing up Fantasia coverage
Uh,
right now. However, while I usually am a lot more involved
mhm.
with my Fantasia coverage, I have not been as much this year because long story short, I applied for Fantasia coverage, I don't know, 2 months ago maybe,
Uh,
and I was not expecting to then suddenly have a job as a staff writer at Dread Central
wow.
during. Oh, did you know? I don't know if you saw
No,
that. I
you never told me. No, good job.
Yeah, yeah,
Good for
thank
you,
you.
man.
Yes, so I began last week officially. So I'm now a staff writer at Dread Central, so you'll be seeing a lot more stuff from me there. But what that ultimately meant is, that that job basically started at the same time as Fantasia, so I have not spent as much time with Fantasia as I normally would. So I've only seen a small handful of movies.
Are there any that
But
you would recommend to us?
yes, actually, both of the films that I've seen so far, I've only seen two. God, I'm so
Uh-huh.
behind. But yes, I would recommend both that I've seen. One was Influencers, the sequel to Influencer.
Oh, really?
Um,
It was good.
yeah, it was good. Some people are a lot more in love with it than I was, but I thought it was a perfectly fun, enjoyable film that capitalizes on what we liked about the first one, which is Cassandra Nott.
I was
So
gonna say it better be Cassandra Nod. She's awesome.
it's very much her show again, and so
Good.
in that regard, it is a sequel that delivers. So there's
Oh
a
yeah.
film called Hellcat that's making the rounds right now, and I can't say much about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but basically it's about this woman who wakes up inside of a camper without any recollection of how she got there, and her kidnapper speaks to her through an intercom from his truck that's pulling the camper.
Oh
He
shit.
speaks to her through that and basically kind of tells her that she has an infection that needs to be taken care of. And I'll leave it at that.
Nice.
But yeah, so that
Okay.
that one's a pretty good kind of fun, intense one. So yeah, I would recommend both of those.
Excellent. Yeah, I myself, I actually, I'm very happy I was able to get a hold of some screeners
Mm.
recently. So that kind of makes me feel like a big shot sometimes when I get
Yeah, no, it's a great
a
feeling.
so I got the screener for Bambi the Reckoning, and
I haven't seen it. Any good?
Jagged Edge, I swear they are leveling up. They are,
Okay.
I mean, I still maintain, and from our previous conversation, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 is a real indicator that they are taking this shit seriously. But Bambi,
It's absolutely a step up from the first film. I'll
but
give them
Bambi
that.
the Reckoning, they were able to, even with, I'm sure it was a modestly budgeted film, I was still blown away by how well they were able to integrate the practical lighting with the CGI of the deer because they did some really wicked shots that really sold the idea that that deer could be anywhere. And I'll say the kills were nice and gory, but we also had a great emotional through line with a mother and her son as like our focal characters, and it's
Mm.
actually a great emotional story to go
Okay.
with it.
Surprised by that, but okay.
Yeah, I was actually really impressed by that. But I would say if you now it caters to some. Like if you really want and the one thing which I'm very happy they are still doing, they are still taking it dead seriously because to me that's where the fun has been is the fact that they are not winking at the camera, being all like, hey, hey. No,
Right.
that's to me has been the fun part is that they know that the humor is just coming from how absurd it is.
Well, and that's how you make it effective. I am so goddamn done with the wink at the camera. We're all aware
Yeah.
what's going on
And this never
type of
does.
horror. I'm so ready to move on.
Yeah. So Bambi the Reckoning, honestly, it's making me more and more excited for whatever it is they got in store with the Pooniverse. Um,
Okay.
they really need to rethink
The
that.
Pooverse.
Yeah, the Pooniverse is what they call it. But another screener I got, which was utterly wonderful for my experience as an actor. This one I took nothing but great catharsis in, also as a director. A movie called Et Tu, uh,
It's two?
as in Et Tu Brute.
Oh, at two. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Et Tu, starring Lou Diamond Phillips and Malcolm McDowell, basically about a stressed out director who's directing a production of Julius Caesar, but he is you see him just go completely fucking nanners
Awesome.
throughout the course of it. I mean, for myself who has had times where I've stressed out on productions, who's had feelings about acting, this one just spoke to my soul in all the right ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny, it was dark, it was poking fun at artistic pretension. I also have to say this, Lou Diamond Phillips delivers a hell of a fucking performance. I mean, Malcolm McDowell is reliably great, but Lou
Sure.
Diamond Phillips, I have never seen him do a performance like this, and he fucking disappears in this movie. He delivers a wonderfully multi-layered, unhinged as hell performance that is just so damn good. It was
Okay.
it was so great. I strongly recommend it. And then of course you and I raved about Together
Yes.
as well. So there.
Yeah, very, very, very fun film. I enjoyed that one. Has stumbles a bit for me in the third act, but I liked it overall. I really
Um,
liked it overall.
the third act worked for me because as a fan of Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I'm a massive fan of Plato's Symposium, specifically that particular thing that they talk about from Plato, the idea of all of us finding our other half. Hedwig and the Angry Inch talked about it as
Right.
well. But I liked how when they said that that was like the core of what they're doing. I loved it because I was like, oh my God, we're actually going to see what that's going to look like. And they follow through on that, which made me happy.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Can't think of anything else, but thank you for taking the time, especially with now with the revelation of your newly busy schedule. So,
Oh yeah, no problem.
so obviously you'll have articles coming out on Dread Central now.
Yes. Yeah,
What
at least a few times a week.
excellent. And is there any other places that we can hunt those down?
Yeah, so I'll still occasionally on my own do reviews here and there on killerhorrorcritic.com. Otherwise, I have a column at Manor Vellum where I talk about monsters called Misunderstood Monsters, and other than that, I just kind of show up here and there around everywhere, writing for Arrow Video and Umbrella occasionally, and that's
Yeah, didn't you get a chance to write for something for Arrow?
I did, yeah. I did the Friday the 13th remake release for them last year.
Excellent.
I wrote an essay for that. Yep.
Beautiful. See, I'm pimping you out all over right now. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Hey, hell yeah. One of us has got to go out there and do the awesome shit. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. So
Hey, you're doing plenty of awesome shit too, my
ah,
friend.
I'm not running for Dread Central, dude. Yeah. Sorry, you win on that regard. But I will say the awesome things I am doing. Next week, we kick off Horror Adjacent Month, where we talk about movies that aren't 100% horror, but definitely wade in the same pool. We're kicking it
Mm.
off with Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, A Clockwork Orange, Return to Oz, and Hocus Pocus. And then we go into the month of October, where we get into our Halloween commentaries and discomfort flicks. So stay
Yeah.
yeah, so stay tuned for that. And if you wish to delve into the dark bowels of human imagination, ask yourself the simple question, what's in the podcast?
Thank you for joining us on this edition of What's in the Podcast. If you find yourself hungry for more deep cuts into the gloriously morbid and macabre, you can also find us on TikTok, Bluesky, and YouTube at Narcotic Casserole. You can also follow us on Instagram at Narcotic Casserole 25. Follow us if you dare.